Nature has forged our heritage and our culture. Historically, the value of nature was direct. It was the source for food, medicine, clothing, and shelter. With today's lifestyle, we no longer relate to nature. This has resulted in the loss of natural habitats and extinction of species at a rate faster than ever in our human history. The conservation of nature is not an option anymore. It is a need. Despite technological advancements, a healthy and diverse nature still constitutes the basis for the well-being of our societies. IBSAR is a pioneering center at the American University of Beirut. Our main focus is nature conservation, and our approach is multifaceted.
We started the center as 8 faculty members and a few students and research assistants. And today, 2 years later, we are more than 20 faculty members and more than 25 to 30 students and junior research assistants. The philosophy of the center is rooted in the belief that not one individual can make a difference. It's the interdependence and the harmony between faculty, students, and staff, and their outreach and working relations with the society, with groups and individuals from the private and public sectors that will make a difference. It is not enough for us to conduct research. It's making sure and following up that our findings are leading to nature conservation.
يعني شغلتي إنه بقضي وقتي رايح من محل لمحل بالفيلد الحق البلانتس حسب الليتريتشر وحسب الجيوغرافيك لوكيشن تبعها لحتى الاقي البلانت. في بالب هون هي بلانت ميديسينال بلانت بدنا نشيلها ناخد سامبل لحتى نعملها تيست باللابس لانه بيستعملوها لمرض معين وبدنا لحتى نتاكد بدنا ناخد سامبلز منها. هلا رح اجمع enough quantity لحتى نعمل extraction للساب تبعهم وننزلهم على اللاب لحتى يفحصوهم.
We soak the plant material in solvent, and then after soaking the plant material in methanol, we try to extract the components based on their polarities. Molecules or components that are very polar will be separated from molecules that are non-polar. With the column chromatography, we will be able to separate almost every component alone. Once we get this mixture of components, what's important about this mixture is that we provide it to do some biological testings on them. Okay? If the component turns out to be active biologically, then it's a potential drug later on.
Okay.
We receive the essential oil from the chemistry department, and then we test its antimicrobial efficacy, which means that we are seeing if it could be used later as a medicine against the etiologic agents of different diseases.
After we receive the extracts that has been produced in the chemistry department, we bring it here to the Central Research Laboratory so that we can further purify it to test it in our anti-cancer and anti-inflammation and antimicrobial experiments. To do so, we use HPLCs and other equipment to fractionate it or to separate the different components present in that extract so that we can test it in the laboratory. So what we use is an interesting concept called bioguided fractionation. So we take all those different fractions and try them on our different systems of diseases to see whether they have any activity, useful activity or not.
We're at a cancer biology lab in the human morphology department at the medical school in AUB. We're taking an extract from the chemistry department to see if it actually inhibits cancer from spreading.
So this is a confocal microscope, which is one of the most advanced imaging facilities actually in the Middle East. This is an instrument that we use to look at the ability of those extracts from plants to stop or inhibit tumor cells spreading an invasion into normal tissues.
When we receive biologically active fractions, our job is to identify the molecule. And the identification process requires major spectroscopic techniques like infrared, LCMS, as well as NMR to identify the identity of the hydrogen and the carbon atoms in the molecule.
Another key activity is that of clinical research. Clinical research is important to conduct because there are many plants that are traditionally used for medicinal properties, and they're currently in local markets. And so our role is to conduct clinical trials based on the reported uses of these plants and to determine which ones are valid, which ones do have the reported effects and which ones don't. If we identify plants that actually or partially have a noticeable effect, then it is worth encouraging its use as preventive treatments by the populations, especially that it is available to widely available to rural communities, and it's a practice that they're familiar with.
So basically here we are in AUH. This is where we conduct the clinical research part of IBSAR work. So here we get the patient, we explain about the side effects of the herb, what are the possible benefits of this herb. The patient then consents and agrees to share in this study. After that, after he signs the consent form, we withdraw blood for the patients, and they are into our studies.
About 40% of pharmaceutical company revenues come from medicines which are plant-based, come from natural organisms. So a lot of the medicine and the pharmaceutical research takes place using basically biodiversity, these natural occurring organisms and plants and nature. So it's a very important source for future generations in terms of not just the diseases today, but the unforeseeable diseases that could occur in the future. Another example of how economics fits into the work of IBSAR is by trying to look at the relationships between, let's say, community development and biodiversity. To what extent does maintaining and conserving biodiversity help find alternative income sources for low-income people? How can it help rural development? How much, what can the Lebanese government or other governments do at not maybe necessarily large cost to provide facilities for local communities to be able to use the natural resources sustainably in order to improve their livelihoods?
هذا سليح ندبه كانوا بالقبل يسلقوه يعني اماتنا وستاتنا يسلقوا منه من احنا ورثنا هالعودة عنا صرنا نجي نسلق تعلمنا يعني هالعودة بس اولادنا ما حبوها اولادنا ما بيحبوا هالعودة هيدي بنجي منسلق ومنروح مننقي مننظف ومنغسله ومنسلقه ومنقلي ومنقعد العائلة كلها بنقعد هناك نتغدى منه هيك نستحلكم تكونوا معنا عم تتغدى
هيدي كشك من البرية مع بصل أخضر مع كشك مع هندبة من البرية والكشك بيقولوا لها معيكي هون عنا وزيت زيتون مش طيبة بالزيت نبات.
The idea behind the kitchens is to basically use the traditional food system and food items originating from the wild to promote better health and improve dietary diversity, as well as trying to use these foods as economic vehicle or economic motor for people in the communities. So what we are trying to do is to promote the usage of these traditional foods as a means to generate income for women from these communities through catering events and other marketing options for traditional foods.
much the embodiment of biodiversity. I mean, biodiversity is in a landscape. It doesn't exist in nothingness. So in a sense, landscape becomes a means of communicating biodiversity to local communities, and all of this was applied in the Wasim Azzeddin project. Because it was a unique project in typically hilly landscape with rural components, including herding of sheep and goat, cheese making, essential oil production. So the project was a holistic approach, bringing all those components together in a model project, but at the same time, not forgetting the role of the background, the fabric that puts it all together, which is the landscape.
البروجكت هو حول دراسة أنواع الأوركيد سبيشيز بالشوف ريزيرف. نحن أخذين بارت من الشوف، هو النورثن بارت منها، جزء الشمالي، وعم نشوف انتشار أنواع الأوركيدز فيه. والجديد بالدراسة إنه كل سايت أو كل محل عم نلاقي فيه سبيشيز عم نحط الكوردينيتس تبعوله على الجي بي اس، وبعدين حننزلهم على جي اي اس ماب للبنان، وبعدين بدنا نحاول نعمل من هول نعرف وين بقية لبنان معقول نلاقي من هول سبيشيز. لحديت هلا صرنا عاملين او ملاقيين بحدود 13 سبيشيز اوركيدز، والطبيعة اللي موجودة منها عم تكون متنوعة من سبيشيز لسبيشيز تاني. اوكي، هلا بس نلاقي نحن سبيشيز لما يكون اول مرة عم نشوفه، مثلا مثل هول اوركيس رومانا اللي بوتانيكا، بناخد منهم سبيسيمنز حتى نتأكد بعدين من الايدنتيفيكيشن تحت بالجامعة بمركز إبصار.
To support our research projects, we rely on AUB Farm. It's a research station located in the Bekaa, and we conduct cultivation trials, we conduct extraction experiments, and we conduct domestication of wild plants that have not been cultivated before.
هون الجلاس هاوس اللي انوجد تحت نعمل فيه اكسبيرمنتس، في عنا عدة أصناف زرعناهم وجربناهم ومشي حالهم، وعنا يعني ريزلتس نتائج كتير مهمة طلعنا فيها. هون عنا تجربة كانت على الأسمدة، كان عنا تجربة يعني كميتين مختلفين من الأسمدة كنا عم نعملها ابليكيشن على الشجر، كمان هول نيتيف تريز. هالشجرات صار لهم 3 سنين عم يتربوا هون، وهلا صار دور انه ننقلهم على الارض. والفكره من وراها هو انه نتعامل مع بلديات، كان انه من خلال هالشجرات نعمل شيء اسمه نيتيف جاردنز، وقريبا جدا رح يكون في مشروع مع بلديه بحمدون. هالشجرات رح يكونوا بقلب البروجي تبع بحمدون نيتيف تريز.
We are very excited about the achievements of the center, and it has generated a momentum that is attracting many faculty, students, and staff.